So today we're taking a look at the Athearn Genesis BNSF SD70ACe, or as some people call it, the SD70ACe. So here in the front we got a nose-mounted headlight, the BNSF logo, as well as some grab irons for a ladder, and then the bottom ditch lights, whitish tan MU cable, and a couple of cut levers. And if you look closely, there are some decals down there, fire extinguisher, as well as a small wrench and a guy falling down for danger. And there's also a label above the cables and in the stairwell as well. On the sides of the nose, there are some sand filler hatches, and the windows have windshield wipers. You can see the front of the cab is angled as well. On the side, you can see at the bottom step, there is a walk light, as well as these lines in the nose and underneath the cab for the isolated cab section. Then we have the SD70ACe written down there. And here is the truck. So the truck actually has a lot of details, the bolt box in the corner, lots of piping around, and you can also see the suspension springs on the side. Here's what it looks like when I lift it up. And when you put it back down, you see those two plates actually connect. So back on top, we have the road number 8597, side view mirror, and a really wide sunshade. So behind the cab, there is this large cabinet, and it's filled with vents, and I feel like this is a good characteristic to tell if it's a SD70ACe, some box on top, and a top walkway. Here in the back of the cab, you can see there's a window right there, as well as some grab irons to climb up to that part. Then alongside the locomotive, you see these yellow striping markings. That's just the FRA stripes for safety features. So in the middle, we have this giant BNSF swoosh logo, some stickers at the top, as well as some orange cabinet door handles at the bottom. Various details like the fuel cutoff switch, the fuel cap, and the fuel tank itself. So in the back we have the giant radiator. It's on diagonal, some side vents as well, some more vents on the top, and some signage at the bottom. By the way, these side vents are actually see-through, so that is pretty cool. So on this end of the locomotive, here we have some grab irons for a ladder, a headlight in the middle, some vents underneath it, as well as spare coupler holders at the bottom. There's also a road number and this tall white grab iron. So now let's go across the other side. Here we have the handbrake wheel right there, some signage black, as well as lots of various stickers throughout. And then according to the manual, this is an air dryer. And then we have some air tanks for the air brakes, lots of little details in the middle of that. And there's actually some door handles for the doors of these locomotives. You can see right there, painted in silver. There's this little step up here to get up to the cab. And there's a second door right here, which is indented. And then we have a side view mirror right here, which is different from the other side. Then at the bottom, here we have these two air filters, as well as some piping going along the fuel tank. And then we have an E-belt hanging down there. There's a tiny little lamp underneath here, as well as a sticker right in the front. Alright, so now I'm going to take a look at the cab roof. So here we have these two BNSF style PDC antenna arrays, as well as orange painted on the side and tan painted right in the middle. Now that's inaccurate because the real life one is painted white, and the PDC antenna should be closer towards the front, and it's also missing the three pipes connecting between the boxes. So all these inaccuracies, it's a bit of a step down from the SD70ACu. Alright, so behind the cab we have these three long lines. Got some roof detail with some vents on the top, including the exhaust. Got the horn right there in the middle, and the midsection of the ACE is angled on the side, so that's another cool detail. There also is some nice lift rings right here, very small details. In the back we have these two radiator fans. They're divided in their own boxes, and they also have some wires sticking out. The fans are actually see-through, so you can see the individual blades on the inside. That is pretty cool. The back fan, however, is not, and there also is a sand filler cap right there. And if you're wondering what it looks like from the bottom, here you go. I will wipe that later on, by the way. And there also was a bit of paint missing from the 5, which kind of bothered me a little bit, so I got a marker and actually filled it in. And it actually worked surprisingly well, like you can't tell if it was there. And now let's compare it to my other BNSF locomotive, the Dash 9 from Scale Trains. Now that sports a Heritage 2 scheme, this one sports a Heritage 3 scheme. So H2 and H3, the H2 has the Santa Fe lettering for the logo, while H3 has this modern BNSF swoosh logo. They're also using black, while H2 uses this dark Pullman green. And these locomotives are built by different manufacturers in real life, so GE versus EMD. You can see the way they did stuff are different, like the window dividers, GE is thin, EMD is really thick, and also the number boards are different as well. And here we can compare the sides of the BNSF H2 scheme versus the newer H3 scheme. So here I'm going to bring my Athearn Genesis SD70ACu. They're both EMD locomotives. You got that slanted nose, really iconic. And I just want to compare the PDC antenna arrays on top. So I think Athearn did a pretty good job with the ACU. It's very well detailed. The three pipes connecting, lots of lift rings on the side, correct spacing for the PDC antenna array. It's more closer towards the front, just like it is real life. So if they just did that to the ACE, that would be fine. So the cab roof is removable as well, and here's what it looks like on the interior of the cab, where there is a room for 3 crew. Now the magnet sides are different. The ACE is a lot bigger than ACU, and they both have a circuit board at the front. The ACE has a wire going across the top, while the ACU is more hidden towards the bottom. Now here are the 2 cab roofs side by side. You can see the spacing differences between the 2 and the sizes, as well as the detail differences. Now one thing that surprised me in the back of the ACU, it was flat across, but the ACE, it had an indent for the boxes, so that was kind of weird. Also, the triangular tips are different as well. So I wondered if the cab roofs are interchangeable, and it turns out no, they are not. Also, if you look at the radiators, the ACU rear fan is see-through, while the ACE is not. So here is the EMD SD70ACe, and I'm going to compare it to my other mainline locomotives. So these 3 are GE by Scale Trains, and these are EMD by Athearn. So all the GE locomotives, they look pretty similar with a pentagon nose, while the EMD, they have a slanted nose in the corners. You can definitely see the design principles are different, like the GE, they're using these covered radiator fans, while EMD is using all these exposed circle fans. And I think it's one of the easiest ways to tell locomotives apart. So here's a Dash 9, the ES44 GEVO, the ET44 GEVO Tier 4, and then the SD70ACU, the SD70M, and then we have the SD70ACe. So for my final thoughts, I think the Athearn Genesis BNSF SD70ACe is a pretty cool model to have, especially because the SD70ACe is one of the most popular mainline freight locomotives here in the US, so I'm glad I finally got a model of it. I think there's a lot of cool details, especially on the underside and the trucks. The paint scheme is pretty nice as well, but it's not without some issues, which are some inaccuracy with the cab roof. It's painted tan instead of white, so it kind of looks weird, and also the PTC antenna array should be closer towards the front, and it's missing the 3 connectors between the boxes, which they did show under the PDF BNSF, so it is weird that they omitted this detail. The last locomotive I bought from Athearn was the SD70ACe, and that kind of set the bar pretty high, so I was expecting all these wonderful details to be implemented in the newest SD70ACe, but it turns out no, they're not. So my guess is maybe due to the pandemic, they had to cut costs and using the same tooling that they used on the Union Pacific SD70ACe, because their PTC antenna boxes, they line up. I also had some paint bleed issues, one in the road number, which I actually fixed, and some more orange bleeding on the bottom stripe. Also, the right ditch light is glued crookedly. So definitely didn't really meet my expectations, but at the end of the day, it's still a pretty cool locomotive, and over time, I think I got more and more used to it, and I like the way it looks. And if you're wondering where I got this from, I got it from LombardHobby.com. I actually used their pre-order site for the very first time, so that turned out pretty well. I do recommend them if you want to pre-order stuff, because they actually save a lot more money than the competitors. But yeah, that's pretty much it for the video. I hope you guys enjoy it. If you do, make sure you hit that like button down below, subscribe if you hadn't already, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.